Good morning, it's April 3rd. We're heading out a little late this morning, but we wanted you to see what we're looking at here. The sun's shining on the mountains, and up at the top you see, maybe over there, you can see the little pine trees, and we're going to climb. We're going up there, but we're going up on a bald today. Somewhere there'll be a bald is a spot where the trees aren't growing, and it's more cleared and open. So we're gonna go hike about 14 miles today to the Clyde Smith shelter, and I wanted you to see the trail here this morning. It looks again kind of like a cow path, like what you might see in a pasture field, a narrow path that's not cut real deep. The sun's shining. It was 39 degrees this morning when we woke up, and because it's Sunday, we kind of lollygagged. We had some dear friends that we met had us over for spaghetti and meatballs in their travel trailer last night. They picked us up and drove us to their travel trailer. We had dinner with them, a delightful time, and then they drove us back. And we stealth camped. That was the first time we stealth camped.
And we left all our tent gear at the site.
We did what, Sherry?
We left all our tent set up, and all of our gear was in the tent, and we left it
in the middle of the woods.
In the middle of the woods, and went with this man we didn't know. It was
a first, wasn't it, Sherry?
It was a first, but
yeah.
It was so wonderful.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful.
So it was a great time, and we're just enjoying the outdoors, and it is kind of an odd feeling when you're walking along the trail and it's late and you need to camp, but there's no place close by, so you pick out a relatively flat spot and you make camp, and then in the morning you break camp and hope you didn't leave anything. So far we've done pretty good, and it's a very different feeling. It's not like camping at a local campground where all the amenities and you expect things to be a certain way. Here, if you don't like something, you're the only one that has power to do anything about it, and maybe you don't have any power to do anything about it. So we're learning a lot, but we are enjoying the trail. We talked this morning about the absence of schedule. The only thing we think about in the morning is how far we have to hike and how much elevation gain we have that day. We think a little bit about the food we're going to eat, but that's really kind of predetermined. Like, if you get a hankering for something, you're not going to go to McDonald's or stop at Maria's for lunch. You're going to dig through your bag and see what you have planned that day. And
Rick, look at this tree. It looks like two trees grew together.
yeah, it does. They start out.
You and me on the AT.
Yeah, you and me on the AT. Two trees growing together. This looks like somebody had a stealth site here. There's some kind of metal
might be right there
over there, but they had a little campfire here. And this is not terribly unusual. There was a little service road there at one time. Not terribly unusual along the trail. Sometimes it does cross private property, and you're never sure where you're at. If you're right now, if you're in North Carolina or Tennessee, it just threads back and forth between those two states. We left Irwin, Tennessee yesterday, came up out of there, and we're hoping by the end of the week, by the end of this week, that we're in Damascus, Virginia. What I started to say earlier, the lack of schedule is really something we're growing accustomed to. We don't have really any appointment. We try to stay in touch with people, but last night we slept on a ridge, and we had one bar of service sometimes. Sometimes they go to 2, and then sometimes 0. And we never know quite what we're going to have. I use my Garmin to send out messages, but they're very short. They're limited to like 260 characters, something like that. And generally that works because that beams up. getting up close to a bald, and quite characteristic of the trail, it changed again. We came to this grove of pine trees that we've been walking in. The trail is pretty much rock. Again, these little pine trees are trying to find footing that they can put their roots down. But as you can see underneath the moss and the grass, there's a lot of rock, and they have to work really hard to get good roots down, or get the roots down very deeply. It's amazing to us how much the trail changes over and over and over. It's a really beautiful spot up here. We can tell it's getting pretty windy, and when we get on that bald, we'll probably have to layer back up because the temperature goes down, and then the wind speeds just increase tremendously. The roots are all on the surface. Little trees sprouting up. It's like we entered into Narnia. What do you think of this, Sherry?
Oh, this is so beautiful. Look at that.
Cluster of little trees, probably a pine cone burst open there. All the moss. I think this is probably the first dense pine forest we've been in. On our way up to Klingman's Dome, we hiked through some pine foliage, but it wasn't this dense. And yeah, it just had a different characteristic to it. Gives you a feeling of tranquility. You can hear the air blowing through the treetops, but it's pretty quiet here where we're walking. We have moments where the sun beams down through the leaves or the needles, and probably these little pine trees wait for this moment every day. When they get some sunshine, imagine it's short-lived.
Oh, look at the sunshine. Just the sun beaming through. It's just so beautiful.
It is. So beautiful. It's interesting because when we're hiking, we really don't have a lot on our schedule. We have miles that we need to cover to get to the next campsite or shelter or water, that type of thing. But if we have to hike an hour longer or maybe more, it's not life-changing. But what is life-changing is all the things that we're seeing, trying to capture this in our minds, in our hearts, and recognize that this creation is like nothing man has ever created. We can't hardly get enough of all the views that we are seeing. This is part of the Appalachian Trail. we're hiking along here, and you can see the growth is all pretty small, not any big trees, and you can see the charred wood along the way. So apparently this was burned off, whether it was controlled burn or whether it was a accidental fire. The effect is that it burned off all the dead and living vegetation, but the new growth is coming on. You can see azaleas and rhododendrons coming up, and probably some new trees will sprout before long. But it's one of the things they have to contend with quite a bit here is fire. All we have to contend with right now is hiking up a steep incline with 30 plus pounds on our backs. But it's a beautiful day, and we have some beautiful views as well.
Don't touch the ferns. They're so beautiful.
Look at these things. Looks like a field of ferns. And they're finally standing up. I guess it's warmer. Just beautiful. Any place there's a little bit of dirt, looks like they're coming out. This is titled Beauty Spot at about 4,400 feet. And the view is just incredible. You can see so far. There's a parking lot over there where people drive up and then probably day hike out of here. Kind of feels like we're walking through a pasture, and the trail looks kind of like a little cow path.